Do all men think the same? Well, I don't think so. Anyway, this is part 2 of my Jubilee Do All Men Think the Same series. Apparently it's a series. Well, you guys seem to like the first one I did, so I'm going to do another one. This time it is featuring an NFL player that I have never heard of, but, you know, NFL players are kind of the epitome of masculinity. I'm joking, by the way. But let's see what these guys think, see if I agree with them, see if I disagree with them, and see if what they think is good, bad for society, you know, whatever. Whatever conclusion I come up with, you know, yeah, that's it. Alright, let's watch this video and see if I think the same way that these guys do.
I believe sports are more masculine than the arts.
Alright, I believe sports are more masculine than the arts. Well, see, saying masculine, more masculine, to me kind of gives the connotation that if one is more masculine than the other is more feminine than the other. So it kind of seems like they're framing this question in that masculinity and femininity are mutually exclusive in these things. And so from that perspective, I would say, yes, sports are probably more traditionally masculine. However, being creative and creating art, to me, is amazing and can be also masculine. So for me, I would maybe lean towards sports are more masculine just because of the tradition and kind of the competitive nature of men. But where I think these men will stand, I think most of them are going to agree that sports are more masculine for the same reason that I did, because it's just kind of more traditionally masculine in the way that society sees sports. This is not to say that women can't play sports, and it's not to say that men who do art are not masculine. That is just what it is in society right now, I think.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1, go. All right.
What's happening?
It was natural. Oh my God.
I'm actually shocked that they went to strongly disagree, even the NFL player, that sports are more masculine than the arts. That's interesting.
Well, now I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm really
curious.
curious.
How am I disagreeing with the professional NFL player on sports?
Because some of the most quote-unquote manly men in my life are musicians, actors, people that I relied on as an image of masculinity. So to say that the arts are less masculine than sports, for me, doesn't make sense.
That's a good point, and something that I didn't think about at all is that, yeah, a lot of our images of masculinity come from the arts. They come from musicians and, yeah, actors and all that kind of stuff. So that's an amazing point, and I would probably switch my answer.
My mom's a cheerleading coach. I think cheerleading is a sport. I argue with her. I'll never let her know I think cheerleading is a sport because I think it's fun to argue with her. But like, there's a certain amount of masculinity, like to do all those, right, to do the backflips and like to push the girls up in the air. So I feel like there is more masculinity that's ascribed to just sports, like than there is to more of the arts. That's why I somewhat agree.
If you put blood, sweat, and tears into something, that's kind of what creates your character. Losing, getting knocked down, getting back up, I mean, learning those kind of principles at such a young age, I think that's kind of what helps create a sense of strength that kind of helps carry you into a certain sense of masculinity and manhood as you get older.
Yeah, see, that was kind of my thinking, that sports are more traditionally masculine, where it's kind of that competition and, like he said, winning and losing and kind of going through that experience and just doing something active. To me, that was why I would put myself slightly agree on that the sports are more masculine. However, the creative arts, it's not to say that they're worse or better, it's just what society kind of deems these things. And so I think a lot of people go into this thinking like, if I say that arts aren't masculine or as masculine as sports, that somehow makes it worse than sports, because masculinity is good, especially if you're a man, masculinity is good. But I think that's the wrong way of looking at it, and there is no better or worse in sports and art, in my opinion at least.
So I'm an actor. One of my recent roles was Donkey in Shrek the Musical. There was blood, there was god-awful sweat because the costume.
And then the crying.
Yeah, there was crying. There was crying.
Talking about the physical aspect, and I really agree that there's physical in arts and in sports, but then there's that mental aspect. You talked about like failure, getting back up. Like even before you got that donkey role, how many people had to get the audition for that role?
Definitely the arts can be right up with their sports.
Sports are an art, too. So.
There you go.
Sports are an art. That is kind of true too. It is all a performance. We're watching it for entertainment, and art is pretty much for entertainment. So yeah, they are kind of one and the same.
Locker room talk is part of being a man. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yikes! Locker room talk is part of being a man. This is a resounding disagree strongly for me because I never had that experience growing up. I never played team sports. I played solo sports, but I wasn't really ever a part of that locker room talk. I also never had friends really that talked that way. And so I didn't really think that that was kind of a normal thing to do. I don't think locker room talk is inherently masculine, especially because I feel like women actually talk about sex and romantic partners and other sexual things much more in conversation than men do. So to say that that is masculine and part of being a man is kind of wrong in my opinion, because women are usually much more open about their sexual experiences with each other than men are with each other. At least most men I've talked to don't really just want to talk about sex openly and freely. So I don't think, no, this is a strongly disagree for me. I think most men are also going to kind of almost selfishly say that they strongly disagree with this because they don't want to be labeled as like a bad guy, because locker room talk has such a negative connotation that they're like, I don't want to be associated with it. So let's see, that's what I think is going to happen. Ooh.
I'll start it off.
And even
Spent a lot of time in locker room. You know, this phrase, locker room talk, has taken on a life of itself. Obviously, in the past years, it's been a hot button issue. And it has changed since I was a 6-year-old and I said my first swear word. And my mom and dad said, Kyle, that's locker room talk.
But I also think about locker room talk as like sexual in nature too. Someone is gonna say it to you. Mm-hmm. Someone's gonna initiate your locker room talk.
Yeah, I thought of it as sexual in nature too, not necessarily bad words in general. So yeah, my perspective was based on it being sexual talk and kind of saying like, this person's so hot, yeah, I want to bang them. And I didn't really have that much of that with my male friends, so that's why I don't think that that's something that all men need, or it's a part of masculinity.
I mean, I think growing up, playing sports and all that, I think it has found its own way with this new locker room talk as of 2016. And I think that's kind of switched to this weird sexual harassment.
I think by the nature of the question, though, them asking us this, it is the people that are crossing that line that we're talking about. Is that part of it? Belittling women, not even if you're belittling women, but you're objectifying them. You're being cruel, but you're like, come on, I'm just joking around. It's a locker room. No, man, that's not what makes you a man. That's not something that should be part of that.
Yeah, see, that guy is right about it. You shouldn't be objectifying people, but I think either gender objectifies people all the time, and so it's kind of hypocritical to say only men do this. But maybe it's because I'm a man, and I don't know, but you know, I've talked to a lot of women in what I do with sex coaching, and like I said, women talk about objectifying men far more in my experience than men do with other men. So just anecdotally, that's what I have.
I think men's main role in this situation is stepping forward, setting boundaries, and still having fun within the framework of those boundaries and respecting one another.
As a black man, I looked at it as like barbershop talk, more so. And I just feel like it's just being a safe space for men to be able to get those ideas out. So like if it's something that's like you find extremely offensive in in the confines of that safe space, I could say it. You could say, hey, this is why I think it's offensive. And I could say, oh, I never thought about it like that, without having to take that out into the world. Realistically, out in the world, I don't think men have the opportunity to express feelings and things like that like they can in the locker room. Like, I'm sure there's locker rooms where you've cried, where you were able to have other men confront you and say, okay, so it's okay to cry in this situation.
Same guys who make fun of you are the same guys who
Yeah,
console
same way.
you.
Yeah.
And that's
so
what's
it's that
important.
safe space.
Well, he just made the best point ever. Yeah, free speech. I am a complete free speech absolutist. I think you should be able to say pretty much anything you want. And he's right. That's how you learn the boundaries. Because how are you going to know if the ideas you have are stupid if you don't test them on other people, right? Because other people are going to say, that's stupid, dude. So if you're trying to silence other people's opinions, it's usually because yours aren't that good.
Men should be the head of the household.
Men should be the head of the household. Another tough one. No, not necessarily. Not these days anyway. These days there are so many different ways to make money and be the head of the household. And that's really what it means to me, is head of the household means like the breadwinner. And today, since the internet is such a huge opportunity to create wealth and create art and entertainment, and there are just so many opportunities for anyone to make money, to be that head of the household, it doesn't matter who is. It doesn't make you any less of a man if you are not the head of the household. There can be men who raise the children, there can be women who don't raise children and just go to work and have their career, and it doesn't really matter because everyone is on a spectrum to me of masculine and feminine, and they all have different interests. There could be a guy that really wants typically feminine things, and who cares, right? They want to raise children and do all that kind of stuff that's typically we see as feminine. That doesn't matter at all. Who cares if they want that? In the same vein, there could be a woman that likes only masculine things or typically masculine things, and there's nothing wrong with that. So in terms of switching the roles, is that a bad thing? Should all men be the head of household? Absolutely not. No, and I think most people are going to agree with me that they don't have to, especially these days.
3, 2, 1, go.
An even split. I guess I could have seen that coming because a lot of people want to be traditional and they want that masculine role for themselves. And I think where people lie on the spectrum will be how they feel about themselves in those roles. So men that really want to be head of household, I think, are going to go toward the agree side, and men that don't really care are going to go to the disagree. I happen to be one that doesn't quite care if my partner is making more money than me and they're the head of household, then whatever. If it's in terms of decision making, I think it's healthier to have an even 50-50 split and come up with decisions together. I think that would be healthier for a relationship anyway. So yeah, that's where I am. Let's see what they have to say though.
My grandpa was a colonel in the Vietnam War fighting for the country of Laos. And if anyone needed a tank, they would talk to him. Anyone needed anything, he was the head logistics commander. And then my dad, he was like the head of a gang. So he kind of demanded respect and became the head of everything. And in turn, both of them were heads of our household. I feel like I have to be able to be the head of the household and have people rely on me when needed.
I just feel like when it comes time for deference, most of the time women prefer to defer to men leadership. And my dad was a primary breadwinner, and then my dad got laid off. Automatically, my mom became the breadwinner. And they just switched those roles, but like when it came time for decisions and stuff like that, she still deferred to him most of the time. And it's like we didn't miss a beat as a family. And I feel like that's what she wanted. I feel like that's what most women want from their men. It's better for the men to be in that position. I don't feel like a woman can't be in that position.
So I think it's like I said, if you want to be the head of household, then you're going to go to the agree side. If you don't want to, then, or you don't care, you're going to go to the disagree side. I think, yeah, him saying that women prefer to defer is kind of generalizing, and he could maybe make that argument that maybe the majority of women would prefer if the man made decisions for them, but even that is still kind of assuming a lot of factors. So I don't quite agree with his point on that.
Yeah, I'm going to build on what you're talking about, CJ, because I feel like each one of us has a unique set of circumstances. And in your case, your dad was really smart in terms of his, decisions. That's why your mom probably relied on him for that stuff. And that's not to take anything away from her. But I'm over here on the disagree side because the question was, should a man be the head of the household? Verbatim, correct?
Yep.
Now, my response to that is no, there is no rules for who's the head of the household.
What I'm making.
So I disagree with the comment. I think men can be, but it's 2020. And if I were to tell you that I'm the head of my household, I'd be lying to you.
Me and the football bro, we agree pretty much completely. It doesn't matter who is the head of household. As long as it works in your relationship and you're compatible in whatever position you're in as opposed to your partner, that's all that matters. There doesn't need to be any of this, should. In psychology, we always go back to the word should, because people will come in all the time for therapy or any type of advice, and they're always framing their life in, I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and it's really not a helpful word for anyone because it assumes all of these different factors are true when they're not necessarily true, because if all those factors that they're assuming are true, then yes, maybe they should be in that position. But they are making the leap saying that all of those factors are true and therefore I should be doing this, and I feel badly that I'm not doing what I should be doing. So take that out of your vocabulary, especially if you are using it in a way to describe yourself and your own actions. Take that word out and you will be much happier, because there are no things that you should or shouldn't do, and you shouldn't feel badly about these assumptions. Alright, so the rest of the video goes kind of into skincare because it's sponsored by a skincare company, so I'm not going to get into that. I think we have learned a couple of things about what men think, maybe just what I think, and take what you will from that. And yeah, hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Not all men need to be the same. Not all men need to think the same way. As long as we are not hurting anyone else or tearing anyone else down, then be who you are, be who you want to be, and that's all that matters. And have good sex at the same time. And if you want good sex, come back for more videos and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.